Let's watch Star Citizen Live. We've talked about this over the last several weeks. We were expecting there to be a IAE Star Citizen Live, as there is almost every year. IAE and Invictus. We get some pretty good drops of information with vehicles. You know, it's been lighter this year, of course, and that's the decision they've made, and that's okay, because they've got more important things they're doing now than like, it used to be kind of about sharing the process of the development, but now they are caught up in the process of the development. So we hear a little bit less, and that's okay, but at least during these Invictus and IAE times, we do get some pretty big information drops, and I've heard this one's got some good answers to the questions the community has had. So let's jump in.
This show's going to be a little different. We're gonna do some general chat. We're gonna talk about some high-level things that I think are important first, and then we are going to get to the community questions. Like I said, it's going to be a longer show than normal. I can't tell you precisely how long, but there's a lot I want to talk about. We haven't been on the air for a while, you know, CitizenCon notwithstanding. So I got you guys here. I came in on Thanksgiving. I want to make sure that we get the most out of this time. So let's start with some general conversation, some general stuff about ships in general, the project and whatnot. I want to start off with this year. This year, if my math is correct, and please, you guys correct me if it's not, you have now delivered 27 vehicles this year.
That's insane.
So my question
That's
is,
crazy, dude.
WTF? Like, how did this happen? And what's this change been like?
It's been pretty full on. So at the start of the year, we talked about doing this year of...
I always love shots like that. Like reaction shots during interviews that don't seem like they have any relevance whatsoever to what's going on.
So at the start of the year, we talked about doing
I
this
don't know
year
why.
of,
That's so
quality
funny to
life
me.
and content. So we sort of knew we were going to be working at this pace ahead of time. We knew that there was a lot of content to fill, a lot of ships to fill. I think we've done a pretty good job of that. Big thanks to not just the team that works on the ships, but all the supporting teams, like all the people who do the web pages and the marketing art and the trailers and economy side, QA, everybody, because it's all just a big group effort, especially to do it at that scale. Like, it's the most we've ever done in any year.
Yeah.
Last year was 23 or so. So
Bro, it's crazy.
even more this year is a big improvement. But yeah,
But to be honest, I think this is really important. Let's dive into something real quick. I'm sorry, I'm doing a deep dive in the middle of the deep dive here. So there is a good man, goes by the name of Colonial Movers, and he makes posts regarding the way that these ships are created. As you can see here, this is just searching for his name on the Star Citizen subreddit, pulls up posts from as far back as 7 years ago. But he's been making these regular posts here to kind of show off like how the ship backlog has been going, how they've been developing ships. And I generally touch in on this every quarter, as long as he's making them. You may have seen this actually referenced in some videos that I've made. Let me move out of the way here so you can see it all. So it shows us all of the ships that have been, like, the year they were introduced, not necessarily delivered, but introduced. So for instance, you can see that we now have ships here that were not, I don't even know about these yet. These were mentioned in the episode we're about to watch. And if they're red, that means they don't exist in the game yet. If they are black, that means they've been filled out. The bottom rows here are variants, and the top are like traditional chassis. So down here on the bottom, you can see that there are a total of 227 vehicles and ships, including variants, and there are 187 of them complete. This was like a pretty big complaint, not even 3 or 4 years ago, that most of these ships have just not made it into the game, or most of the ships that have at least mattered yet. A lot more of these ships have been making it into the game over the last few years. And a very big difference this year was that none of the ships that were introduced were concept ships. So they're starting to move into a much more reliable position when it comes to the ships they've delivered. Plenty of these back here should have been delivered by now, but the gameplay doesn't exist. So they're lost to the void. Like, if the Genesis Starliner was brought into the game now, they'd bring it in and it would just be an oversized Cutlass Steel. We could be kinder than that. It would be a Starlifter with a bunch of seats in it, And then they would make passenger transport 2 years down the line and realize that they needed to add the drinkifier or whatever the heck it's called in there and have to redo the inside of the ship. So they try to avoid putting these ships in, these big ones that depend on a certain type of gameplay. Endeavor depends on just an absolute ton of stuff. The Crucible is repair and rearming. The Orion is a different type of mining. The Banu Merchantman depends on player shops. And the whole D&E obviously are just ridiculously large. And we'll learn more about those in this episode too. The Kraken is actually in development, but needs landing pads and ways for other ships to land on it securely. The Vulcan, repair and rearm. Pioneer, base building. Nautilus, mine laying. The Ranger just needs good two-wheeled physics, and we don't have good ground physics. The G12 is honestly kind of a waste. I think it should have been released by now, but it's not. Liberator also needs the same thing as the Kraken. The Odyssey needs more exploration, quote unquote, long range scanning and stuff like that. The Raylan is in development. The Expanse needs refueling. The Galaxy is coming next year. Legionnaire needs hacking and docking to work better. You get the idea. Like, these all have reasons for not being in the game. Most of the stuff that is in the game. But Colonial Movers releases these pages and it just kind of shows how they're doing on delivering on these things. And it looks a lot better than it did just a couple years ago. They've started to get a lot more of these ships delivered that people were like, when the heck are you going to even work on these? And I think that's good for them. But 27 ships in 1 year, obviously, is like, they don't even really introduce 27 ships in most years in terms of an idea. The fact that they introduced and delivered, I mean, they didn't introduce all of them in this year, but they introduced a lot of them this year and they delivered. It's kind of crazy. The ship team has really saved Star Citizen. I mean, it's the reason Star Citizen exists in terms of funding, but man, they came through in a time when they really needed it, because I think they were expecting Squadron to come out a couple years earlier than this when they took their investments for it. Either way, that's just a little, like, I don't know, 27 ships on its own is an impressive number, but the way that they've scaled up and gotten better at delivering on their actual in-game assets is a detail that will always be missed when this conversation goes outside the Star Citizen community. Like, they're making some solid progress on hitting certain milestones.
It's not gone without its challenges, but I think we've done pretty well on there.
Yeah, I think I'll be honest, I lost count of how many we've done this year. It's been a lot. I think the kind of like the transition to the like the monthly releases and everything, it's it's been full on, but I think we kind of weathered it pretty well. I think there's been no secret that we've been kind of expanding the vehicle team a little bit over the last couple of years, and we're kind of starting to, I guess, see some of the benefits of that. I think we've also I guess we're still in progress of kind of like changing some of our processes and how we kind of tackle ships. That has kind of allowed us to speed up. Our concept team's grown. Like, everything has kind of grown a bit to allow us to kind of get a little bit more kind of throughput. I think it has been a challenge, but I think I think the team are in a pretty good place with what they're able to deliver and the speed and what we can deliver. We've ticked off a few big ones, ticked off a load of small ones, and it's kind of finding that balance of getting through some of the big ships, but also still being able to deliver a whole bunch of kind of new and exciting ones as well.
Finally getting the Idris out the door.
Yeah. And I mean, some of that stuff. We kind of got thanks from the other teams on the other project that have helped us.
The
with that
Idris, the Polaris, and the Perseus all in 1 year is a lot. Not bad.
Side of things, but I think it's been a busy year, but it's been a good year. Like, everyone's come to the end of it. It's like, do you know what, I'm very proud of what the team's delivered.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it's been reflected in every metric. Our daily average users are way up. Our concurrency is way up.
Well, tell us.
So,
And I think
Tell us. They will never tell us these numbers. I want to know, what's the daily average user number?
some of that stuff as well, to be fair, is
Come on.
we can't lay claim for that. Like, some of that side of things, if the plan at the beginning of the year for the year of kind of stability,
The video is sped
improvements,
up.
I think, has meant that there's more people want to play and they want more ships to play with, and so the kind of work of some of the other teams outside of the ships that have kind of helped with
Isn't
that.
too much.
So I want to follow up with another question. So 27 ships. About how many were from the backlog? My next question is, there's this question that always happens. We're just going to jump right into it, guys, here. The decision between making a brand new ship that nobody's ever heard of, straight to flyable. And by the way, you missed the fact that not a single concept ship this year.
Yep.
This is our first year we've done entirely straight to flyable or backlog ships. No more. The era of selling JPEGs or whatnot, is the folks on the internet like to say, done. But where was I going with this? But the choice between the backlog ships, like how does that work? There's folks out there who are obviously waiting on their Banu Merchantman for however many years. I think it's almost 12 at this point, and stuff like this, versus getting a brand new ship like the L-22 or whatnot. How do you make these decisions?
As we've said this a few times, but as you say, always someone's first show. When it comes to the backlog ships,
I know somebody is on their keyboard right now typing in marketing.
Quite a few years ago, we decided that we're not just going to release ships that just don't have their gameplay loop, or like their main gameplay loop. And for a lot of those older backlog ships, they rely on features or gameplay loops that just simply aren't in the game or won't be in the game within the period of time it's going to take to make that vehicle. And I can't remember how many backlog ships we did this year, but I know the backlog has gone down because of it. Like, we've not added to it. It's net decreased. So when you look at the ones that are left, there is a sizable proportion of those that fall into that camp of they require feature gameplay loop. And we
but not all of them, John. Where's that G12, my friend? Why did you get us the MTC instead of the G12? Why?
Want to start and go through a whole vehicle to get to the end and not be able to release it. We'd rather use that time and resources to do other things. So the backlog pool of ships to pull from is relatively slim, so that has to be balanced against, we've got 11 patches this year. We want to have a ship in every patch. Mm-hmm. We've got Fleet Week and IE, which we need to have a lot of ships in. So it's always a back and forth of shiny new content, upgrading older content with gold standards, and then delivering backlog ships.
So that's a good answer, and like I just said we have answered it before, but it's important to continuously reiterate this again. It's the first show, and sometimes people just don't pick it up from the first time. It's while we don't always succeed. Obviously, the Clipper just went out. It's got a fabrication station in there. Crafting is not in just yet. Whatnot. There is a certified and deliberate effort to only make ships that come with their gameplay whenever possible. So and that's a major factor in why we make certain ships versus some other ships. While making 27 ships this year, and while working down not adding to the backlog with no new concept ships, while cutting down the backlog with delivery of those ships, you also, I think everybody's aware at this point that we're on the cusp of releasing finally our first version of engineering. Like, we have been talking about engineering so long. The first time we mentioned it,
oh my God,
I was dressed as a vampire. Like that's how
we
long,
watched this. We just watched that, right? He was. What is it? Interface showcase. Dude went crazy. It was COVID. We all went crazy. But he went crazy on camera. Now, he had a good time with it.
Yes, everybody is at home and the work continues, and that is the greatness. But it hasn't always been easy for Count Disco. Before everyone else went to WFH, it was decided that somebody had to stay behind and take care of the studio for when everybody returns. And
so he and Dan Truffin, unfortunately, who is no longer with the company, introduced engineering.
So with the resource management,
for the first time,
this idea that there is one way the resources are managed throughout the entire game. There's one way to consume them, one way to produce them, and all the items everywhere, they use the same system. So we started by...
This was the first view of engineering. This is where it all started. Literally the most basic representation of a spaceship. It's got the components and it's got the relay in the middle. And they slowly built it out. I mean, they explained it further here with a full representation of these kinds of things, but it's come a long way. And it's a pretty big deal that it's actually getting put into the game. This is a very, very big part of what makes Star Citizen, and what a lot of other game systems are dependent on. And the fact that it's actually coming this month, maybe, That's great.
Pre-pandemic, and we are on the verge of finally delivering this first version of engineering. We're currently shooting for December, before the end of the year. But obviously, this has been a massive undertaking for your teams, because you have to go back, and as we're approaching nearly 200 ships now, not just convert the old ships to work with the new system, adding components and stuff like this, but making sure you build the new ones with this in mind. How's that been?
That's been crazy. It's a huge amount of work, and it isn't just they finish the feature, here's how you do it, off you go. We work with them to do the prototypes for it as well, so we actually test out and implement it on normally a test vehicle that gets chosen. But then to go back, because we've been developing ships for 8, 9, 10 years at this point, it means that how we've set stuff up over the years has changed as well. So how we have to deconstruct and then reconstruct it to work is different depending on when the ship was released. So on top of having to actually get the ships out and release all the new content, any downtime is spent in a combination of either bug fixing, quality of life for existing ships, or doing all of this feature support. Right now, the entirety of the vehicle design team is off doing tweaks and changes to improve how features coming out in December feel and experience, and we're actively making changes from what we thought it was going to be to what feels better and is a better experience. Literally right now, the team is sat doing it. Probably listen to me talk about them as well.
Yeah, I think that's like, part of the challenge is even like simple things like making sure the ships have got fire extinguishers. Like, we've known that's been coming for a while, and we've been adding them to a lot of our ships. As soon as we kind of knew that was coming on, but we didn't necessarily know exactly how that system was going to work, and we had no real way of kind of like testing it. So really now, a lot of the time is, you think, oh yeah, well most ships got fire extinguishers, it's fine, but we still need to go through, test them all, make sure they all work, realise that, oh actually, there's a bit of collision that is a tiny bit too big, that looks fine, but we had no way of testing it, and it's those sort of little things that kind of catch
So
out.
the fire stuff is like an interesting thing, because I've seen a lot of people say, I think a lot more people are open to the component stuff and like keeping the ship maintenance going, but less open to the idea of fires breaking out on the ships. I've seen a lot of reasons for it. Metal doesn't burn. We would have automated fire suppression systems. Everybody would keep their ships vented. Ultimately, they seem to come back to like, this doesn't seem fun to me. Why are you putting it in the game? And I do wonder how many of you feel like the fire is something that you would want to do without, but keep the component stuff in. Does that ruin it for you? Do you feel like it's too much to like the whole idea that ships would have fire suppression systems, I think kind of gets to the point that like people don't care whether or not they're using tech like it makes sense for that time period unless it negatively affects them. So is that something that they should do for the gameplay reason, in your opinion? You could live without the fire? Well, I bet so. It certainly wouldn't be killing you. I feel like the fire system is a look at what we can do in our game kind of system. Fire is fine and fun. People are crybabies. It should only happen in very special circumstances. There's fire in the Reclaimer in the old tech video venting the ship, and everyone is on their own life support like the Expanse. We have auto fire suppression in military vehicles today. Why would it not be in 2955? But that's what I'm saying. If you take that stance with everything, we couldn't possibly have a good game, right? So do you take that stance with everything? Do you only take that stance with some things, or do you just say we're going to pick based on not necessarily where tech would be, but on what the game's supposed to be? Because I don't even think we'd be pulling our own triggers to shoot people in 2955. I don't think we would be firing our own turrets. We probably wouldn't be going to get burgers at the... I don't know, would we even be eating real food by that point? Or is it all paste? Are we just squirting pastes into our nostrils and mouths? Just don't overdo it if it's happening rarely, or at extreme circumstances. If it gets intrusive, I feel like it's anti-fun. Yeah, I think it should be the most intense of deterrents, right? Like, you should be able to go through a whole bunch of damage to your ship before you're dealing with fires on the interior. That should be like, hey, you are not taking care of your ship kind of moment. I agree with you there.
A bit too big, it looks fine, but we had no way of testing it, and it's those sort of little things that kind of catch you out. On the art side, we're probably in a better place because our side is less impacted by it. I think it's really kind of the design and setup side that's kind of weathering the.
For engineering, there's a lot goes into it that players just don't see. So, we could spend 2 hours talking about how we do it, but essentially and we've been doing this process under the hood over the last 18 months, 2 years.
Yeah, near enough.
Basically stripping out the old item pipe system, replacing it with the resource network. That was a lot of manual labor to do that. Mm-hmm. And the way that's been in the game since before 4.0 has just basically been all the items just automatically connected themselves. That was just to get the system in functional. And now we've been doing the passes of actually physically linking all the items correctly to the relays. So people will have seen in larger multi-crew ships that have released the last 2 years, physical relays, physical items, and it's literally connecting up the resource network for those. So when you have a ship that has an engineering screen, you can see all these connections, you can manage it. And for the initial release, everything will support engineering. It just comes in different sort of stages. It's obviously, everything has to work, step one.
Ideally.
Ideally.
Well, is that the requirement?
Yes.
It's not always a guarantee.
Not always a guarantee.
Let's just be real. It's not always a guarantee.
But obviously, a single seater is less work and less requirements than, say, the Polaris, where a single seater, you have the ability to repair your items through the MFD, and that's our sort of fallback case for a ship that doesn't have physical components. You could be able to do that gameplay from the cockpit from an MFD, and then as we go through the ships, physical.
All right, how about now? How do I eat a snack in the single seat fighter? We're almost there. We're so close.
Adding engineering screens. Again, not
Just
every ship will have an engineering screen because it just doesn't make sense to do that.
No.
You get more and more of that gameplay unlocked, but it's not like if a ship doesn't have physical components, it's way better than one that does for the gameplay. They both get impacted the same.
Mr. Malzero in the chat says, what about armor? Well, yeah, it's coming too. So engineering's been on Tech Preview for a little while. It was on Tech Preview without armor when they just finished the code check-in. I was talking to Torsten earlier today. When it returns to PTU, I think tomorrow, the day after, as soon as the build is where it needs to be, armor. The first version of armor will be in as part of engineering, and it's going to dramatically change the balance between ballistics and lasers and all that stuff.
Different tiers of ships and everything. So it's just fundamentally different how combat.
Yeah, this is actually pretty big. Wow. If they're serious about that, hold on. Let's go back to a couple other videos they've done. There's one that I covered. So they originally started talking about this a little bit more in depth back when they introduced soft death. And they told us at the time that soft death was the original fallback, the halfway point, because they couldn't do armor yet. They needed to do, you know what? Let me search for soft death instead. That would make a lot more sense. They needed to do something that would give people a lot more time and sort of change the way that ships would work. All right, let's see if this one has something in it about that.
Will soft death ships be repairable? We know from ISC the answer is yes, but can you give us any more information on this? How does this work?
So the first thing is that soft death is a bit of a temporary solution. We don't have the full damage penetration. We saw a placeholder for it at CitizenCon. And I think everybody saw the Maelstrom presentation with the ships breaking apart. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be part of it. What we right now have for soft death eventually will be more of a systemic thing in that some ships, if they kill your power plant or they kill all your relays, or you have, a very bad crash landing and you no longer have wings, or, your ship is no longer able to fly or to move under its own power, there will be some degree of repairs you can do manually if you get spare parts or, you've got engineers working on it. But as you mentioned, the SRB is also the solution when that ship cannot fly. There's nowhere to repair it on the field. You just tow it back to a base and do the regular repairs there.
And so I understand. So like I said, right now we have this soft death. It's this the entire thing doesn't just destroy; it just becomes kind of a potentially useless hulk. Mm-hmm. But with the SRV, we'll now be able to grab it with a tractor beam and pull it back to a repair station and get it repaired instead of waiting for the insurance payout.
The repair isn't in yet, so you will be able to move it, and but repairing, I think, doesn't Like we didn't prepare for that yet.
So that's 2023, November 2023. This is 2 years ago. So here's where they talked about it last year. This is, again, talking about the engineering system, but really this is about the way that ships are progressing towards being something that doesn't necessarily just blow up. It becomes a new form of game mechanic. It is a derelict. It has parts that you can salvage. It is made of materials that you can use to craft new stuff. It is offering habitation if you can power it. It's offering power if you can siphon fuel out. Like, a ship doesn't end when it dies anymore, is sort of the goal here.
Plant reaches 0 health, it will run into a critical failure, and that critical failure then will cause the entire ship to explode. It will give the player a time frame to react to that. So either by removing the component and throwing it out of the door and preventing your ship to explode, or even countering it by repairing the component and bringing it up to life again. For the initial release, we have a limited amount of misfires, but we are preparing the system, or we did prepare the system to scale well for the future, so we can introduce multiple misfires, and that leads us to damage penetration.
Here's the important part.
Damage penetration, it's a simplified version of what we'll be getting eventually with a more physicalized system, but essentially what it means is that now certain types of weapons can penetrate through the hull of the ship. This is a function of the weapon itself, its penetration values, and also of the armor of the ship, which can be depleted over time.
So if you use ballistics, you have a higher penetration, which allows you to cut through the armor more deeply and touch the components inside the ship directly. As opposed to this, you also have energy weapons, which will be more effective at melting down the armor.
The goal here is that you first need to bring down the armor health value to get to the fullest potential of your penetrating weapons. Then you can penetrate the ship and actually damage the components that sit inside the ship and not on the outside of the hull.
Obviously, there's degrees to this. Larger ballistic weapons may have enough penetration against smaller ships that it will be able to penetrate directly, but it's all of a game of choices, and it's going to depend on your ships and your weapons.
So with damage penetration and misfires happening, that brings us to repair.
So this keeps going on, and this is, like, again, you can tell there's a lot that can branch off of this and work differently. This all combines with their Maelstrom damage system to eventually be incorporated in a way that allows for ships to be more systemically destructed and just kind of ripped apart. I'll show you a showcase of Maelstrom here. So yeah, Maelstrom is about just creating huge amounts of destructible environments. And it's not even just ships, it's supposed to be bases. And I think it's going to be a lot of stuff that's a little more temporary. I don't think it's going to be just every single thing is this destructible, because that would be insane. You can't, especially on an MMO. But this goes back to the original damage models that they were trying to show off when they first were showing off how they wanted ships to be damaged. This is a video clip from around 2014, 2015. And in the same way, they were showing kind of the damage mapping and how it would fracture or affect the shaders on the ship. But this also showed how a ship would fracture and break apart based around the physics and the damage being done to them. Obviously, it's taken a long time for them to get to this across an MMO environment. But that's kind of, that's the precipice of where we are. We're almost there. We're not quite there. This whole armor thing that they're doing is a big step in that direction, but they still got to get the actual damage simulation going. So that's like kind of an explanation of armor. It's meant to help with weapon customization. Ballistics penetrate better and can get straight through to the armor, but energy weapons will break down the shield and make it easier to get through to components. Or something along those lines.
Down the shields and then melt the armor stuff. Or if I know where the shield generator is and I've got ballistics, I can punch right through that and take those out faster. It's like that. It's going to be a real interesting challenge and change to combat. You know, the more you know these ships, the more effective you're going to be and stuff. And then of course, continuing changes to flight model. The flight model will make that better and stuff as time goes on.
Yeah, well, it also massively benefits people actually taking larger crews, because if you're trying to fly it on your own, you can't go around repairing all the components in the bigger ship. So it encourages you to actually go out with your friends, because they stay in the fight a bit longer. It's going to be a huge shift.
What
in the
friends,
dynamic of
Ben?
cruise ships.
Yep.
Wait, that's not Ben.
We've got an ISC that'll air next week that we shot with Torsten. It'll go over a bit.
Oh my God, we're getting an ISC. Now I can make content with their content.
When the PTU goes, you'll learn more about engineering from PTU than you will from the ISC, as always. And then we're working on a big engineering doc to release alongside 4 or 5 that'll help explain a bunch of the fundamentals and stuff. So
cool. Love that.
We're all
Love
shooting
it.
to get this out before the end of the year. So we're going to do.
There's also a very good document that I'll point you towards. I don't know how easy it is to find. I think it's this one. It's actually not very easy to find, because you have to know exactly what to search to find it. It's not on their website anywhere, but it tells you basically everything that you need to know from a standpoint of how ships work and kind of how these components are going to fit into the function of ships. I'll link this in the chat for you. But searching Star Citizen components power signatures will probably make it come up for you if you're watching this after the fact. And this is a good one if you just want to get a primer to get ready for engineering. This is a good thing to read to really understand how this is all going to work.
We've talked about making all the new ships, talked about, the choice between backlog stuff and weathering. There are still there's this other class of stuff. There are still flight-ready ships who are still needing their gold standard, their gold standard. So let's explain what the gold standard is real quick. And if you're so inclined, give me a list of what ships are getting their gold standard in 2026. I know it's a when question, but
and then I can't get in trouble.
I'm gonna push for it. I want to know what ships get their gold standard next year.
So gold standard, I mean, it's a term that kind of gets thrown around a lot, but for me, it's about if we were releasing that ship today, making sure it has all the features, all the functionality of a ship that we are releasing that's brand new. So really, it's going through and just kind of ticking off all of its components, its physical items, the different interactions, making sure the metrics are correct, and it's really just kind of bringing it up to the gameplay experience that a more modern ship would have. It's less about kind of making stylistic changes for the just because you can. I think there's something to be said for kind of keeping a ship's history. Now we have obviously over the last 10 years or so things have improved in how we kind of create the ships. So we do tend to go in and make some material changes. We might relight it and do those sort of things. But I don't really want to go in and take away the kind of core DNA of a ship. If we're going that far, then I think we may as well do a Mark II or a Mark III or whatever it might be. But for me, gold standard is just bringing it up to the kind of the functionality that we would if we were kind of releasing it today.
Okay, so that's gold standards. There's a lot of questions from the community.
Now Jared's like, okay, that's great. Now which ones?
Thread, and we're going to get to that in a few minutes here. About the other ways we update the ships. So there's the gold standard, which you just explained.
Yep.
And then there's an outright rework. You've got. I think it's Polaris owners are now somewhat envious of the Perseus interior.
Yeah.
Star Runner owners are looking at the Clipper's second entrance and being like, "Where's my second entrance?"
Okay, Star Runner's a good call out, but let's be honest, 600i is probably, I would say the 600i and the Reclaimer are and the Starfarer, like the 3 oldest ships with the most obvious rework needed, because good golly gee. I mean, the 600i was literally, they took the 600i, learned from it, and then built the 890 Jump, which was better than the 600i. But even now, you can look at the 890 Jump and be like, that also needs an update. So the fact that the 600i, which they learned from the mistakes of to make the 890 Jump, hasn't been updated, it's like, oh my lordy. That's the real problem. It's not the backlog. It's the ships that need updates.
600i.
Yeah.
Just do that there. Sometimes we do a gold standard. Sometimes we shoot for a rework, and sometimes we do a Mark II, as we did with the Hornet. So talk to me about
no. Sometimes we do a Mark II. No,
how the choice between a rework and a Mark II comes about.
So with the reworks versus Mark II, it depends on what we're trying to achieve and whether what already exists actually achieves that. So using the 600i as a prime example, just as a talking point for one, when we made the original 600i, we had a particular vision for how we wanted the interior to be used and laid out, and then as the game evolved, we realized that the interior just doesn't work for what we actually want the ship to be able to do, what we want to achieve, what we want the experience to be while using it. And realistically, if that ship was left in the state that it was, it wouldn't actually fit its role or purpose within the game. So what we want to do is rework something like that. It needs to be taken back and then re-reviewed. And obviously everyone's seen the rework images, the concept board. There's an entire thread on Spectrum where people are keeping track of everything for it that we've ever said and covered. That's the rework. That's when what's there doesn't work. It doesn't need tweaked. It doesn't need things adding. It doesn't need minor changes. It's straight up, it just needs removing and putting back in.
So here's a couple looks. If you know the 600i interior, you can tell that these changes were inspired by the 890, like I was saying. They are insane changes, though. Like, you can fit a Nova in the 600i that they have planned. These are concept images that they showed off to give an idea of what the reworked 600i would look like 3 years ago. This is 2022. So there's a lot of salt around the 600i rework and kind of how people feel about it. And I get that, because they should not have shown this stuff if they were nowhere near getting into it. But that's the difficulty of this, is they never really know.
The gold standard can sometimes be just bringing something up to scratch. So that's adding, say, the suit locker's missing, or the weapon rack doesn't work, or other features that help the gameplay experience but don't require us to fundamentally change something about the ship. And then the Mark IIs exist where...
So basically a rework is when the ship they made doesn't fit the gameplay that they have. So like the Starfarer, for instance, needs a rework. It kind of gets the job done, but clearly it needs some stuff added to it and taken out to make it make more sense. The Reclaimer, to some extent, needs a rework. The MSR probably is going to need a rework.
The Mark I, the original, still works for the role, but we want to make it bigger and better, but we don't want to get rid of what the original role was being fulfilled. So if we talk about the Aurora...
Too late now.
If we talk about the Aurora,
so this was revealed to me before this, so I did know about this, but I got things to say. I'll let them explain first.
So the Aurora interior. Oh man, I'm getting in trouble after this.
You got it, Mark. Let's do it.
Okay, so the Aurora.
This is actually a really big deal, by the way. I don't know. Who knows who they're looking at right now off the camera. They're like Ben is definitely looking at somebody like, is he busted? Yeah, it's actually a big deal for them to be making an Aurora Mark II.
So the Aurora is obviously getting a gold. It's not obviously, but people are now hearing the Aurora's getting a gold standard.
If you've been reading the monthly reports.
Yeah, we knew that.
Is it in the monthly report? Yep. Thank God I missed that. Okay, so the Aurora is getting the gold standard. So what that is, the interior still mostly works, but there's some tweaks needed to make it work with our gameplay loops. But we don't need to strip the entire interior back. It needs a place to put weapons. It needs a place so you can actually walk inside with storage boxes. It needs a fire extinguisher. We don't need to gut the entire ship. So that's why the Aurora is getting its gold standard. It doesn't need a full rework. And we don't want to change what the Aurora is, because the Aurora it's the Aurora. So that's when a Mark II might come along, because we can do something bigger, better, different, something we're more interested and engaged in, something that allows it to be more than what it was, but is something new.
Don't give me this might stuff.
But why? But I don't understand why. Why don't they just make a new ship? Why do they have to make an Aurora Mark II? I've got so this is like a little bit of a gripe because of the way they've treated the whole Mark II thing. A little bit of a gripe because I think this is just feeding into the confusion they already created. It's actually not a big deal. This is gonna happen. I'm gonna be annoyed with it for like a day, and then we're going to move on. But the original reason they made the Mark IIs, there was only one ever Mark I. That was the Zeus. The Zeus was the first ship RSI ever made, and it was I think the first ship to ever, get into space or something, or I don't know. It did something specific. But this was the original Zeus. And so because this existed, they wanted to make a Mark II. And so they used the lore to say, this is the Zeus Mark II. It wasn't that they had a ship in the game, and then they wanted to go and make something else that fit a different role, like they're saying now with the Aurora. This was lore. This was just the straight up, like, the story that they were telling. And the other reason that there was a Mark II was also lore. Where the heck is that video? Wait, I know that's here somewhere. I pulled it up. Here we go. This is the Hornet. Listen to this explanation of why there's a Hornet Mark II, and then tell me, there's no other reason. There's no other time they did a Mark II. So this whole explanation of why they're doing the Aurora, this is the first time they're putting that information out there. This idea that they realize that a ship should be something different than it was, and so they're making a new one. This is the first time they're actually doing it. It wasn't last year. It wasn't the Hornet. It wasn't the Zeus. These things were already spoken for. So this is a big piece of information they're putting out. And I think it's kind of giving them an okay, a little check off to start to go a little wild with, like, just remaking ships with the same name. I don't know why.
Hey guys,
this was
not too long.
Sorry, this is 2017, I believe. This might be 2016. Yeah, this is 2016.
Ago, I received the awesome task of creating the new Hornet F7A ship, which will be featured in Squadron 42. I recently got done with the modeling and texturing portion of the ship build, and I would like to show you guys the process on how we created the all-new Hornet F7A. The original Hornet F7A Mk1 was created by CGBot, and it was used in the first pitch video by Chris Roberts. The F7A is going to be featured in Squadron 42, so naturally we were looking to do a complete update for the Hornet, since the mesh being used in the game as of now is still essentially the old CGBot model from 4 years ago. The idea here was to keep the original Hornet F7 Mk1 series in the game, and then add the F7A Mk2 model completely new from the ground up with our latest techniques and pipeline procedures. Chris thought it would be cool to have the classic Hornet and the new version run side by side, and players would have the opportunity to keep the old Mk1 as a classic collector's item. We were also going to revisit the Mk1 one last time with an update on materials and damage systems to have it mesh better with our current assets. While we wanted an updated and new Hornet, we still wanted to keep the essence of the Hornet line of spaceships, rugged and relatively simple, yet very effective.
So, like, it is what was originally planned for the Hornet, and that's all fine and well. I just think it's definitely a change. And again, I'm not saying that's gonna, like, this, I think people will will see me have a little moment about it and think that I'm trying to, like, start a big drama or crash the company. No. I just think I want to draw attention to the fact that this is a change right now. It's not like this was a thing before and they're just adding on to it. This is a new understanding of how they're going to start building out more ships, and the Aurora might be the first one. You could call the Mantis a Mark II maybe, or the Asgard a Mark II, but they weren't actually calling them Mark IIs at that point. The Aurora Mark II is the first real one, and I wonder what they're gonna do with it, how they're gonna go about it. I get them wanting to protect older backers from their ships being changed, but where's our 300i Mark I? Where's our Cutlass Mark I? Like, they did change some of these ships quite a bit, but they decided not to do that practice with those, but they're doing it with the Aurora. And at the same time, I still just don't understand why the Aurora is getting itself a gold standard, so Aurora owners will get their Aurora that's upgraded. This other ship they're talking about, why is it just not a different ship is the weird part to me, but it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. I just think it's important to note.
And they already saw my reaction. An Aurora Mark II is coming.
Yeah, the Aurora Mark II is a thing. I'm not going to go into details about it, but it allows us to take the DNA of what a Mark I is and then expand upon it, make it something different, make it its next generation of itself.
Yeah. If you look at it compared to the Hornets.
Just looked at the chat.
Yeah, it definitely means, like, Before this, I was like, guys, there's not going to be Mark IIs of all these ships. You probably remember me saying it. I sat here like an asshole, and I was like, yeah, it is. It's not going to be. There's not more Mark II ships, guys. You're talking about things that they're not actually doing, but now they're doing it. So, Connie Mark II, Saber Mark II, all these things could have Mark IIs. Who knows what they're going to do with them?
The Hornet Mark II and the Mark I side by side, you can tell they are both Anvil Hornets, even though they are stylistically very different. They're the same roll, they're the same rough shape, and that's what we want to do with the Mark I Auroras and the Mark II. That you look at it and go, that's an Aurora. It does the same rolls, but it's new RSI style.
So, why make an Aurora Mark II? That's from the chat.
Primarily, a big visual upgrade compared to the Mark Is, but there are so many Mark Is out in people's accounts. Like, it's one of the most iconic Star Citizen ships. We don't want to just suddenly one day, poof, they all disappear, and you've all got this new other ship that you perhaps didn't want 10 years ago. So it's the same with the Mark I Hornets. We didn't get rid of them and replace everybody's with Mark IIs. We want
collectors.
Both can coexist, and yeah, like I say, as collector's editions for. I was here back when the Mark I was a thing.
Yeah, and as one of our kind of like iconic starter ships, you kind of want, it's getting its gold standard to bring it up to what we want that experience to be. And then the Mark II gives us an opportunity to update its visuals to a point that it, like I say, it's kind of like the new generation of RSI. So it gives us the options to do kind of both the making the originals function and play how
it's going to have to be a split wing Aurora.
Doing a kind of a full visual overhaul as well. And there'll be people out there that will be like, don't like it, I want to keep Mark I. And there'll be people out there that will be like, Mark I's not for me, I love the Mark II. And that's a good thing.
I can say this, I will guarantee like the Mark II more because I do not like the original Aurora. I think it's super ugly.
So I'm going to say something, and I don't want you to react one way or the other.
Then just don't put the camera on us.
But the opportunity, there's been a fan idea out there for as long as I've been here, well over a decade, for what an update to the Aurora.
Wait. So just reading chat, do you guys think that they're going to stop selling the Mark I Aurora? Like that's kind of what you're getting from what they're saying? They're just going to, they're basically discontinuing a ship, but finding a way to not discontinue it, and they'll just stop selling the original. This is their way of making sure the Aurora matches the Cutter and the like the other newer starter ships. And I guess that means that we were going to lose the $45 start price for the Aurora. I wonder if they'll do the same thing with the Mustang then. Like, is this their way of eliminating the $45 starter price? You just eliminate the $45 starter ships and sell their Mark IIs as the new starter ship, a little bit more expensive. This feels like they buffed what a starter ship is, and now they're trying to get the Aurora to be back in line with that. Mustang's next. Down with the Mustang!
And I just want to know.
You think the price will be similar?
Have you seen it? And
you think it'll be $45 still?
Are you considering it?
Well, adding ramps instead of stairs.
It is cool to have the Mark I Aurora.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's pretty cool.
Absolutely considering ramps instead of stairs. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it at that. And we'll go ahead and confirm that's coming in 2026, because why not? It's on the 2026 schedule. First half.
Enough.
Yeah. There's nobody left to get angry at me.
They'll sell all the Mark Is later. The vintage
There have been
sale.
a few cargo capacity changes recently. The raft, which was a big surprise. Like I didn't even know about that until it went live, and I'm like, what?
This guy just.
And then a few more coming up in the future with the whole series. The Raylan, which we managed to sneak in there with a little hologram.
Say that again.
Future with the whole series. The Raylan, which we managed to sneak in there with a little hologram thing, as well as an announcement that it's coming in 2026, which was.
Hey, let's go. We talked about that on the podcast yesterday, but holy crap! Finally, the Raylan. Can we take a moment, please? Just one moment to look at the Raylan. I want to look at the floaty bits. The floaty bits are really cool. I need to stop using that picture. Look at the freaking animations on this thing, man.
That's where you first get your experience of the GM.
This ship
really
is nuts.
Increases the animation and what we can do with what's spinning, what's moving, what's reconfiguring. So I think the ship team is going to have a lot of fun with that.
So what does the Raylan add to Star Citizen as a whole? It
moving
really
parts.
increases the diversity of spaceships, especially A.
So then, when you're in that like transit elevator,
Look at this, dude.
into position, and all that's
This is going to be nuts. This is going to be our first large-scale alien ship, and it's going to be such an experience. I can't wait.
Architecture within this ship. When you choose to get on the lift, go up to habitation. You've got a console that's made out of like 50 different pieces in it, and it all builds itself into position, and then you click the button, get on your elevator, which isn't the standard elevator either. At the moment, it's at an angle, so you have a very different experience of like
That's pretty
transitioning
cool,
up
dude.
through the floors. The floors
It's gonna
will
be
also
so cool. But also, I hope that elevator doesn't vent the whole ship. Like, are there airlocks between these? Or
transform to sort of enable you to get through easily. So then, when you're in the habitation section, you've got access to beds and lockers.
Actually, it's a Sean ship. It's probably gonna have like air shields.
You can go left and right to the turrets and escape pods. And then you've got the dual race kitchen and bathroom section, and then sort of like a communal eating area. And then from there up, basically it takes you into a more technical section. And so you can either go to a docking, which is at the rear of the ship, and then you've also got a good portion of components in like the sort of quite technically themed
Yeah, this is the
area
weird
of the
part.
ship. And then you transition through there towards the bridge. And again, in there is we were looking at a way of being able to access components in a non-standard way. So the big stuff we've kept quite
I don't think this is gonna work out. I think this is gonna change on the ship when it comes final.
traditional, because it makes sense. They're just there. But the smaller stuff, it's kind of like a component delivery system. So you choose which component you want to access. It's delivered to you. You can change out whatever it is you need to change, and then it's taken back off you and absorbed
That's not gonna work out when everything's on fire and you're panicking trying to get to each
back into
component.
the ship. Then you just transition into the bridge, open bridge, and then, like I mentioned, the captain and the co-pilot at the front in the large, like floating, almost like UFO style seats.
Gonna be pretty cool. If you like alien stuff, this ship might nudge your fancy.
Nice. And I hear even cargo changes to the Ironclad are probably in order.
Oh.
What can you tell us about these? Yeah.
Let's start with the whole series. They were concepted back
2015 by the great Jim Martin. Back then, they were everyone's favorite measurement of cargo, freight units.
Yeah, you guys are all asking when that video was from. I think 2021. Yeah, June 2021. So this was before physical cargo. This was before a lot of things were considered for the game, and they'll have to probably update some of that stuff.
How many FUs a ship
They
had?
had so many FUs, and they got converted to SCUs. And as we brought the whole series to the game, the whole C actually I think kept at its original
Pretty
SCU
close.
conversion rate. The hull A was 48 at concept, but we increased that to 64. Again, cargo metrics in our game solidified over the years. It didn't make sense to do this weird 48 because it didn't nicely fit in with the size cargo crates we have in the game. And as part of that, we decided that we want 32 SCU containers to be our largest container in the game. There's not going to be like a magical 64, 128, 256 one. And that sort of has knock-ons for the whole D&E. But I want to talk about the whole B first, in that we've been working on that. And that was 384 SCU at concept. It's now going to be 512. And it can still land
Which
with
is
the cargo fully on, planet side. And
bro,
you can
that's
get in and out.
crazy. 512 and it can still land planet side is like, to be quite honest, that's encroaching on the Raylan, which very well might be a reason for the shift at the same time. Where the heck are the ships? Show me the ships. 512 SCU it used to have. But if you compare that to, say, the Raylan from Gatak, 640 SCU. That's only like 100 SCU difference after the upgrade, right? Because they just said, what did they say that the whole B went up to? 530
384 SCU at concept. It's now going to be 512.
512. So just a little more than 100 SCU separating them. And I think that could maybe be considered in the reason for the Raylan getting bumped up. Who knows? But it still puts it in a pretty solid spot when you compare it to some of the other ships that you're using for cargo hauling. Let's look at the C2. So the Crusader C2 is 696. So it's like only 180 SCU more, but you can store the cargo on the outside of the hull B. So you have a lot easier time loading and unloading that cargo. And does this thing come with a tractor beam? No, I don't think it does. But that is it's not bad. The hull B being 500 and something SCU of cargo is pretty good. Both of those values are the updated ones. The Raylan was, that's the updated version on the Raylan. What was the Raylan before then? Yeah, then it's definitely why they bumped it up. If this is the new version of the cargo. Previously 320 SCU. Hell yeah, they had to bump that up. Holy crap. They had the Raylan going at 320? Wasn't the thing supposed to be competing with a Caterpillar at least? How much does a Caterpillar carry? That's a really surprisingly low amount of cargo. Not surprised that they updated that. Let's see where the Caterpillar is. 576 SCU on the Cat. Oh my god, yeah. The Hull B is competing with the Caterpillar. That just completely changes my idea of what the Hull B is. Good for them. Wow, and it lands in atmosphere, and it's storing cargo on the outside? Brother.
That was 384 SCU at concept. It's now going to be 512. And it can still land with the cargo fully on, planet side, and you can get in and out of it is an important thing. There was a lot of finagling.
Yeah, they're still in the bracket together. I'm surprised. Dude, it's so weird. Some of these ships, I see them in concept and I'm like, that's a big ship. And then I hear what they're competing with or what they're doing with their stuff and I'm like, that's not a big ship. What happened here?
We don't have images. I want to be clear. We don't have images because Ben gave them to me and I forgot to load them up. So you can blame me. But essentially, it went from this to like this in order.
Yeah, it should be a concept art, right?
Yeah.
We're that to that. And
I paint pictures with words.
Yeah.
Slightly longer, but still within the same hangar size.
It was a little bit of a headache, but we tried a lot of different things. But yeah, we got there at the end. So. Yeah.
Well, it'll be all right. It'll be a nice reveal when it comes, and you're working on it now. So that's all we'll say about that one.
What do you guys think? Alien Week for the Raylan, or is that too early? That would be pretty quick. Can we double check our ship tracking sheet and see where that is most recently? Because I think May. Alien Week is in June. I think June for the Raylan is a bit early. Did we go over this? Yeah, it's only hit pre-production. So we don't even have an update on it being in actual production. Ooh, yeah. I don't know, guys. I don't know about that. No updates since July, and the last update had it in pre-production. Usually these things are like hitting white box at least within the first like 8 to 12 months. Maybe they can bust through this really quick. But it is a new manufacturer and a new size ship. I don't know. Oof. I don't know.
You just say it's coming in 2026?
Yeah. If we're doing this, let's go.
All right. Yeah, the Hull B is coming in 2026 too.
We expected that. I think we even have that written down already. Hull B, MISC Hull B, we expect it, yeah, spring of 2026. It'll probably come a little after this, actually. This might be a summer ship.
No.
No silhouettes this year. We're doing this instead.
Yeah, I got a question about the silhouettes. Talk to me about the Raylan.
Raylan, 320 to 640. People have seen the hologram in the halls and seen a lot of comments about the triangles missing.
Yeah. So
it's fake news.
Yeah, it's not. So the hologram was based off of the game we have in the model we have in game at the moment. We are currently working out exactly what we're going to do with the cargo on it in terms of, I want to keep the aesthetics there. I want to keep it as close as we can to the original concept. But I also want to make sure that it works. And like I say, we don't want to end up with these weird shaped kind of cargo containers. So we're trying a few different things, haven't nailed it down in concept yet. It's kind of in the next couple of weeks we'll start looking at it, but it will support kind of just standard cargo metrics. We will keep the kind of like the visuals of these triangles. They may be like a frame that kind of clasps around it and holds it and kind of moves out of the way. There may be little end caps. Not sure exactly, but it was just a case of we haven't fully resolved that yet.
No,
So
sir. This is not coming next. Wait, no, the Raylan is not coming next year. If they haven't even figured out the Oh man, this stuff makes me giggle sometimes. Okay, let's talk about this, yeah? Let's go back to a fun little Q&A that was revealed for the Raylan. Because I have been checked on this in stream. I've been checked on this very thing. How are they going to do this with the cargo? And then someone was like, they already figured that out, bro. And sent me the link to this. So if you go to the Q&A, when they first released the Raylan, the concept of it, somebody asked, the current SU system is based on rectangular dimensions. So how are the new triangular cargo pods of the Raylan going to work? Will this new shape affect the physicalized inventory? They said the triangular cargo pods of the Raylan are actually fixed to the ship and not the cargo containers themselves. They open to fit the standardized cargo items inside. And so then they ask here, will the Raylan's cargo pods be more durable than those on the Hull series? As the pods themselves are part of the ship, they provide some protection, unlike the Hull series where the pods themselves are open to the void. However, they offer nowhere near the protection of a fully enclosed cargo bay. In general, all of these questions are kind of giving the sense that the cargo pod system's figured out. As standardized cargo units are contained within the pods, they're treated as normal by cargo stations. The shield system covers the pods. Like, they never really actually say, hey, we're figuring this out. They're loaded like any other cargo ship, maneuvering the cargo into them by hand, tractor beam, or hiring NPCs to load for you. All of this gives the sense that, like, the cargo is kind of figured out, I think. And it's a bummer now that they're like, well, we're figuring it out. Because I was thinking this was all good and set. I thought this definitely would have come this year if that were the case. But yeah, if they haven't even figured out the actual how the cargo is going to work for this ship, I don't think this is going to be a 2026 ship, unfortunately. Let's see what they say, though. Maybe they'll confirm it.
That's why it's not on there.
Okay.
But it is,
Yeah.
that is still the plan.
What's
That's
still
why
the
it's not
plan?
on there. Fully resolved that yet. So that's why it's not on there.
Okay.
But it is,
Yeah.
that is still the plan.
Want to
What's
go back
the
to the D&E because I forgot to go back to them.
Yeah, I was going to go back after
Okay.
we did the Iron 2.
They confirmed it for 2026?
Kind
How?
of like
How are they going to
it will
do that?
support kind of just standard cargo metrics. We will keep the kind of like the visuals of these triangles.
Dude, they're gonna, man, okay. If they can do it in 26, that's crazy. I guess maybe end of 2026. Their team is like is on another one if they can really figure this out in concept and get this ship out this year. On top of all the other stuff they're doing, the ship team is truly, holy crap.
D&E because I forgot to go back to them.
Yeah, I was going to go back after
Okay.
we did the Iron 2. But you can do it now. We'll sandwich some bad news in with the good
Yeah,
news.
whole D&E owners sit down because this is going to sound like bad news, but it's
That's right.
It's the news.
You look right at your camera there.
Which
There you
one's
go.
this one?
Yep. Nope. Give him the John Crew camera.
Move out the way.
Give him the bad news camera.
Zoom in.
all the way. Your cargo capacity is going quite a long way down. So the D, and I've got my notes here, is going down to 6,912 SCU, which is a lot of SCU.
That is a lot, but that ship used to be huge, right? The whole D used to be like multiple dozens of thousands, right? I know this is all going to be updated stuff now. Let's see if they name it here in the Q&A. It was 20,000 before? It's actually not as much as I thought. 6,912. Wait, no, I guess that's updated because he just updated it to that.
Going down to 6,912 SCU, which is
Okay, so that's updated.
a lot of SCU. And the E is going down to 12,288 SCU.
Okay, that's
So-
huge. I know the E was like 70,000 or something like that. The E was 98,000 SCU. That's a huge decrease. But you know what? Good for them, man. They're facing realities head on, finally. Like, it's a lot of it's disappointing changes, but it feels good that it all feels more realistic. At the very least, the economy folks must have told them, like, this is not going to make sense. Like, we can't, the scale of this is just going to be too crazy for the game that we're building and the way that it's turning out to be. So I'm glad that they're making these kinds of changes right now. This has got
Gut
to
reaction,
happen.
that's a big drop from, I think, 98,000, and I can't remember what the D was.
Yeah.
But for years, people have quite rightly said, this is going to be so boring. I don't want to sit and load 3,000 plus 32 SU containers by hand, or even in an org.
Yeah.
Economy-wise, huge concerns. And then performance-wise, also huge concerns. So whilst they have on paper gone down...
Dude, imagine if somebody blew up a Hull E and all of that cargo scattered everywhere. That'd be like its own dynamic event.
By a big percentage, they are still
the top of the game.
Absolute top. And we have no plans currently to have any ships that get anywhere near those. Like, I can't think of one that actually beats the Hull C at this point in terms of cargo capacity. So the D&E is still the cream of the crop.
Yeah, as long as like scale wise, as long as they still are the peak of the peak, it makes sense. It's not like the actual changing in the box size, the amount of boxes they take, if they're still the top dogs by a far margin. That's the important part.
Remains unchanged as the bulk and super carriers. They're just, their SU comes down to more reasonable levels.
Yeah.
I'd genuinely be curious to see how long it would take to load a Hull E with the original numbers. Like, hand on heart, generally curious how long it would take to put that many 32 SUs on it.
Yeah, and we looked at the concept meshes of it, and there's some quirks. They basically add...
Dude, I'd fill a Hull E with 1/8 SU boxes of SLAM as long as those get to remain my 1/8 SU boxes of SLAM whenever we get to where we're going, you know? But yeah, this is yet another sign of the way that this game is changing, because things become reality over time. They developed the ships to fund the features that are now driving the ships. Once those features have been funded and made, they're realizing the ships need to be made to fit them. This is the inevitable thing that was going to happen, and we didn't realize it as much. I think they should have realized it hardcore, and maybe they did, but at some point, things had to recorrect to actually fit what was possible with code. Unfortunately, they sold us on what was not possible with code in some situations, so we'll see how far they can get with that stuff.
Extra spindle for the D and then for the E. But the scaling's all like off, and there was just no way we could even get to those numbers with the current actual cargo metrics. Like, the spindles would have had to have like quadrupled in size.
Yeah.
As it was.
I think proportionally
becoming,
would look
proportionally
interesting.
Yeah.
And obviously, we'll revisit the concepts when we kind of get to that point as well, because they're going to need a full pass.
It's one of those things. I'm looking at chat here live. I think a lot of people suspected the same thing. It's like the numbers never quite made made sense. They were a mistake back then. Whenever these are ships that are not coming in 2026.
They were a
but
mistake.
we know
they were an exciting idea that were being placed down on paper, because exciting ideas are exciting, and a lot of design elements were not considered when some of these ships were made. I think it's worth saying. I want Star Citizen to succeed, but I think Star Citizen should also be a lesson on like how these things go. And it's okay to acknowledge that we did indeed get a lot of things that were told because they're exciting. That's how it was. Maybe they can't say it. Maybe they can't say it legally speaking because it opens them up to certain things on camera. I don't know
what the correction is. And John came to me, gosh, it was like last week, I think, and said, hey, I'd really like to get this information out there now. There's no reason to sit on it. So I really appreciate you doing that. Back to some better news then. Ironclad. We're talking about cargo.
Yes, so that's obviously in production. Again, monthly reports. Backlog ships are always mentioned in there. We don't keep them a secret. Ironclad cargo capacity, both of them, going up. So the base Ironclad was 1,536.
1536.
That's going up to 2,204, and the assault's going from...
Bro, that's a whole freaking other ship's worth of cargo being added to the Ironclad. Is crazy.
1,152 to 1,440.
I see why you got notes now.
Yeah, this is why I have it written down. Again, they may change slightly as we get close to release, but it's that proportional change. Why did that happen?
We reshuffled the inside of it. It was the bulkhead move, and it was changing where the ladders were. So there was, as we went into, when we went through White Box with the actual layout, we then get a good chance to walk around and play and feel what the ship would be like. There were a few changes that happened to the layout and how we were orientating everything. And as things push and pull around a little bit, there's a little bit more space. It made sense to fill it, so we ended up putting a little bit more cargo in there. It's one of those things where there might be a little bit of change. We'll never go down, but we'll sometimes take it up a little. Well, sometimes might go down. Talk about
We never
the whole D and whole E. But
That's cool, though.
made sense
Good for the
from
ironclad.
layout and everything. So just got a little bit more cargo because it made sense to add it, and it looked dumb not being there.
The ironclad's going to be like the Perseus. The way it releases, it's actually, no, it's going to be bigger. The ironclad release is going to be probably one of the biggest ship releases in a long time. I could see the ironclad being a bigger release than the Polaris. Obviously, it's not going to be the Hydrus, but like the ironclad is a very loved ship. And it's coming at a really unique time where like big ships are starting to actually make sense and mean something. It's like prime time for the ironclad to come in if they do get it in May.
So
I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah, when we were looking at it, there was some gaps in the cargo grid, and it's kind of like, if they're justifiable, it's fine. But when there's just a gap, it's just people are just going to shove more cargo in it anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Well, it was just because the ladders moved. Yeah. Originally, there was paths so you could get the ladders to the catwalks, but because we moved them out to the side, it just didn't make sense for it anymore.
The Aurora Mark 1 sneak peek image that went out a few weeks ago was sat in the Ironclad's cargo hold as a background, just for a little bit of a...
Oh, we didn't mention when the Aurora Gold Standard arrives.
2026.
2026. It's also coming with all those damn Kickstarter
I've gone
paints.
pretty Sherlock Holmes on some of the old paints. Trawling our archives and the internet, trying to find all the details of the paints that...
Going back to the original Kickstarter
were
page.
once promised before my time, and...
literally some of the oldest outstanding things. One of the reasons I really respect and enjoy working with John and Ben and sometimes Mark is that we can have a conversation at like 11 o'clock at night about how, guys, if we're going to do this gold standard, we really should dig out these paints. Yep. We really should dig out, these things that existed before I was here, before you were here, figure out what they are, figure out what it's going to take to get them and do them. And you guys are always down for stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. If that's something we're on the hook for and deliver, let's just get it out of the way and stuff like this. It's because
I think
it's just nice.
There's 4 that we know what they look like, and there's still 2 or 3 that I can't find any visuals for at all.
No, they never had any visuals.
So we'll just we'll make something cool.
Yeah. So, all right. And finally, before we get to the player questions portion of this show, this is the last question that's from me. Every other question for the rest of the show is from you folks. What was my question? We didn't do a silhouette thing for Sysagon Direct this year. Mostly because the 2 of you are lazy, I suspect.
Didn't ask one.
So we didn't do a silhouette. We're not going to do one here today.
Do it live.
Don't get that hand shapes.
There's a whiteboard.
Shame.
Let's drag it over. We'll start doing silhouettes.
Shame, we're addicted to the silhouettes,
There are still 2 outstanding ships from that silhouette of things that were supposed to come in the next year. Go ahead. We've already revealed. We've already said the Aurora Gold Standard is coming next year. We've already said the Aurora Mark II is coming next year. We've already said the. I almost revealed.
Not that easy, is it, Jared? When there's so many of them.
Just do it.
Tell me what those 2 ships are.
Just say it.
There's actually 3.
It's actually 3.
There's actually 3. So everyone thinks it was the MTC silhouette, but it was actually the MFC, which Ben announced in the MDC video yesterday. Yeah. So that's the crafting version.
That's the fabricating version of the.
Yep. Yeah. So basically,
I do like the MTC's sort of like footprint. So I enjoy that they're making more vehicles from it.
It swaps out the rear section for a crafting section. Opens up.
With some lovely images again.
Okay. Yeah. Does this. Just imagine the back.
Goes up like that.
It kind of adds a little bit of like shielding, so you can get to your crafter if you're under attack and.
Chris would be so proud of us, right?
Yeah, I know, it's brilliant. It's basically how I deal with my team. It's just this.
It's the classic art director gif. Of just
So we've got
that. The big Anvil Atlas chassis one is the Auxilia.
Yep.
Which is, if you like the Clipper,
Auxilia.
It's basically that in an Atlas ground vehicle chassis. So it has a crafting machine, same dimensions as the one in the Clipper, and a tier 2 medbed.
Dude, that's probably gotta be one of the more interesting things I've heard from them in a little while. A ground vehicle with a medical bed and a crafting spot speaks so much towards what they're expecting for ground gameplay soon. Or it's a complete waste of a vehicle. I mean, you could use it for a lot of things, but that gives me the sense they expect us to spend a lot more time on ground soon.
in a big hulking great.
It looks really cool as well.
It looks really cool.
Yeah.
Nice little kind of forward operating base.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. One person, drive it in, and you've got your little respawn and crafting and everything.
Keep trying that bunker mission.
I say that because right now the pyro outposts are really the best places to do ground vehicle missions, and those barely work. Distribution centers are not super well supported, so it just doesn't really feel like there's a lot of ground gameplay to get too deep into right now. And so I guess it could fix all that and it would make more sense, but it does feel like, and maybe with Starkitect, maybe we'll hear some more soon, they expect more ground gameplay.
Yeah. And then the last one, a lot of people correctly guessed was a Glest. Guest was a consolidated Outlands ship, and that is, I think, currently called the Forge. I don't know whether we're going to keep that name or not.
I like that
name. You
name.
can guess from the name what it does. It's another crafting ship. It's basically a small to medium-sized solo ship with a whacking great crafting machine bigger than the ones people have seen in the Clipper and other ships.
That's cool.
And it also has a onboard refinery, so you can refine goods to make your things you are crafting or fabricating.
Off.
And then 11th hour request for it as well was, much like the Pioneer, it's super big brother. It also has ground extractors in it, so you can land on a planet and extract the resources to refine, to use for your crafting.
What the dude? What is that ship?
And I mean, with that one, we were fairly early with the concept.
A refinery, a crafting, and mining? All in a single person ship? What?
Except when we kind of paused it. The concept's super cool. It's got this amazing kind of like slab front, kind of glass canopy to it.
Full width flat glass.
Yeah, full width flat glass. So it was a really cool looking ship. Can't wait to pick it back up. But I don't know if we'll end up doing.
We'll end up tweaking it.
Yeah.
Again, it's got a, like we talked about earlier, we don't want to do things that we're not confident that the gameplay is going to be there in time for its release. And it got a few extra things added to it than when we started the concept for it. So then that's obviously pause it.
And obviously, if it hasn't been apparent now, the reason those didn't come out last year is because crafting didn't come out last year.
Yeah, and you know, it was on the production schedule, but we knew.
Okay. Actually, we'll
ahead
update
of time
after.
enough that we were going to end up with a ship that didn't have the gameplay, so we pulled that out. I can't remember what we put in its place, but we released something else in its place.
So is crafting coming in 2026?
It's above my pay grade, so you need to
ask that team.
We're going to try.
I mean, maybe they don't want to be the ones to say that, but that would be for crafting to not be a guarantee next year is a not great. Let's see what we get from the tech preview. Hopefully they still get the tech preview out in December, but yeah. Crafting, not in 2026 would be rough. Let's update our ship sheet. The old ship sheet. So our last ship was the CNOU mystery ship. We can now rename this to the Forge. We know what it is. Hey, it is a kick-ass. Honestly, I don't know how else to put that out there. Looks really weird, but interesting. We're pretty excited, but predictions are all over the place. Okay, so now we have our update. Mini Pioneer. I'm going to call it the Baby Near. And ground extraction, crafting, and refining in a small body. Get that update for us, luckily, on November. When did this come out? 28th? Expected release. Don't know. We're going to say medium for the second half of 2026, but like if they didn't seem too certain about that. There are also a couple other ones though. Why don't we? So the CSV-FM was something. Let's copy this and make another one. That is the, what was the new one? The Gray Cat MSC. I think it was MFC fighter. There's a variant small fabrication vehicle. We don't know what stage this is at actually. So we'll just keep it at concept for now. And this will be a crafting variant of the Gray Cat MTC. And this one, our first mention of it was October 2024, Q4. Actually, yeah, so it wasn't the Argo CSV that we saw. It was the Grey Cat at the end of 2024. So I can just delete this. And this one, most recent update is again, November 27th. Also, hopefully a half two of 2026, I guess. We do not have a similar sheet for gameplay features. That would be very difficult to follow. And then there is one more I believe they're going to talk about here in a little bit. We will get to that one. Let's return.
All right. Oh, there's a good question in the chat. I lost it. Oh well. You know who you were. So let's jump into the questions from the community. So the next 30 questions or so are entirely from members of our player base, and we've grouped them into a couple different subjects. Let's start with some Perseus questions. We'll start with the questions related to our 6 currently new vehicles at IAE. And the first question, and these are generally in order of what they were voted up most, that could actually be addressed. Will you be adding gravitational plates to the outside walkway of the Perseus?
No. It's
See Nequin.
It
Next
was
question.
Yeah, next question. There's a lot of people love those areas that you can walk around outside of the ships. There's some really fun, annoying bugs and technical consequences from it that happen as a result of basically abusing the setup to get that to function. And for the Perseus, we really just wanted it as this planet side, like I've landed on a planet in my Perseus, and then I've got this nice little balcony on the side of it that I can go out the rear bridge airlock door and then just survey the land and defend the ship from.
It's not to say that we won't ever explore some gravitational plates on the walkway.
Sure, but it's not the physics grid method that we currently use. So that we used to have it on the outside of the carrier to stop people clipping themselves into the back of it and stuff. It's not what that system's intended for, and there's way too many consequences as a result of using it.
All those people hoovering up transport shuttles and asteroids with the front of their 890s and Carracks and things like that.
It's their fault.
It's their fault.
Yeah.
Okay. Why is the Perseus pilot? Why does the Perseus pilot have control over the ship's torpedoes when the Polaris pilot isn't allowed to use the torpedoes? There's a lot of questions from some rather salty Polaris owners who see the Perseus and like, why not me? So, what's the deal with the torpedoes there, Mark?
I'll let John give the good news.
Oh,
it is good news.
It is good news. So in 4.5, we're going to allow one of the bridge stations. We were talking about this last night. Which one?
We went for the gun, not the missile.
The gun one, not the missile. So the back right station of the Polaris bridge will have torpedo control as well now. It's, as you can imagine, you can use it from there. There's still a reason to go down into the depths of the ship to use it because you then get that 360 camera, and it also has a much larger queue of missiles from there.
Yeah.
So how many did we settle on there? 8?
8. So can I queue up 8
so
at
if
once?
you want to bankrupt yourself, go down to the basement of the Polaris and queue up 8
What
torpedoes.
are you shooting at?
Yeah. Something you don't want to exist. So yes, we do want to, and people will in 4.5 have it. So at least they're on the bridge together doing things. Why not the pilot?
Yeah, why not?
Because we sort of want to have some enforced balance there. The Perseus torpedoes are way smaller, way less damage compared to the Polaris ones.
I think there's this thing. It's like when the Mercury Star owners look at the Clipper. It has a second entrance. It's like this. There's this. It's easy to want every ship to have everything.
Yeah.
It's real easy and completely understandable from a player standpoint. Let's just be real. You have your favorite ship, and your favorite ship can't do something that some other ship does, and that irks. That just makes your brain itch. But this is my favorite ship, and I want my favorite ship to do everything because it's my favorite, and this is the last ship I want to fly. But weirdly, that's not exactly great game design. You don't want everybody to just pick one ship and that's the only ship they ever fly for the remainder of their time in the game, because that becomes boring. You want choice. You want compelling differences between this ship, that ship, and the other ship and stuff like that. So while there's certainly things that can be done, like adding the control to another station, behind the Polaris and stuff to bring certain things into parity, you don't want this forced equalization of all things.
Yeah, and without even looking at the chat over there, I can already tell they're going, well, the Polaris doesn't have this. Why does the Idris pilot get the railgun? And I can see that, and it's a sort of different problem in that if you don't give the pilot of a ship that has a fixed weapon on the front of it control over firing that weapon, it's basically useless. You will never hit anything trying to coordinate between two people with something with such force accuracy. That doesn't mean that we're happy with how powerful that railgun or beam is and won't look to balance that in the future, but it's not justification for the Polaris pilot or co-pilot, because we also had this discussion, why do we just give it to the co-pilot of the Polaris? Well, then no one will sit in the pilot seat, because they'll go sit in the co-pilot seat because they can fly and then shoot the torpedoes at the same time. So it's all sort of a fun multi-layered thing, and it can seem like, oh, they're just ignoring the problem, but there's lots of things to consider.
Yeah, and I think there's loads of balance things, and there's loads of things.
I don't have much to say about this. I think that it should be different chairs. I think that's the whole point of it not being easy to solo. Like, you can still do all the things, you just have to go to different chairs, or you're going to be limited.
Time that we could improve on. And we're not saying we're never going to go back and make improvements to ships, but these guys are trying to balance them. So
you just wandered into one of my, I've got my 7 catchphrases that have developed over the last decade and a half and stuff, and one of them is that every ship that you guys make is better than the last. I mean, I really truly believe that. There's this idea that it's another really easy idea to fall into, that we just know everything in 2012. We know everything in 2014, we know everything in 2016, we know everything in 2018, that we don't learn from each ship that we make. When the reality is we do, and we should. We should learn from every ship we make. Not Falco, oh gosh, I can't think of his name, when we were talking about the Perseus. Probably. About the signage on the Perseus. We should learn from these things and get better with every single one.
Do you want me to go into this or not? Or have we got time to talk about Perseus, Polaris and things?
Yeah, by all means, do it.
So I think there was a little misconception over the Polaris, is that we didn't have signage because we didn't know what we were doing, or we didn't have signage for this and the other.
I assumed you didn't know.
I'll be honest, I didn't want it to be overly signposted. And was that right? Probably not now, looking back at it, because the general feedback has been people much prefer it. For me, what I was trying to do with the Polaris was I wanted it to feel like, not now looking back at it, because the general feedback has been people much prefer it. For me, what I was trying to do with the Polaris was I wanted it to feel like a cold, intimidating, kind of brutalist space that wasn't like particularly welcoming. It wasn't particularly well signposted. Like, there were all decisions.
If there's some crazy reason that Ben Curtis is watching this and would sit and watch it until this point in the video, or if anybody knows him and can let him know that he nailed it. It was a very brutalist and stoic. Keep your arms and legs inside until this ride comes to a full and complete stop. Nobody even uses these. It was very brutalist. It was very stoic and cold, and I felt like when I got into the ship, it may be on my videos from back then, I was saying, like, it feels very cold and hard military, and I thought that's what they were going for. It didn't seem to work with people, but I do think that, like, what he was going for did translate into the game. It reminded me of old Halo spaceships, which I guess also didn't really have the background that, like, things are labeled and stuff. I don't know. It was a different time
that we were making to try and make it feel just somewhere that, was a war machine.
Eastern Bloc.
And that was kind of like the vision that I was trying to put into it. Did the team ask to put signage? Yeah, some of the team did want to put signage on it. And I was like, actually, I don't want to overcook it. Obviously,
you like the design?
It was the first time that we were learning a lot as we were going. We were building out kind of RSI kits. We were kind of investing a lot of time into like the underlying structure that we needed to then be able to build future ships quicker and smoother. And I think, obviously with the Perseus, we saw that a lot of the feedback was people didn't like it, people got lost, they didn't like the lighting, they thought it was bland and everything else. So we used the Perseus as an opportunity, and the NA team, they did a fantastic job with it, and all credit to those guys that they looked at it and they're like, what did we learn? What are we going to improve? And it's resoundingly been a success. Everyone seems, or from what I've seen, it's been very, very positive in how that's been received. Are we going to go back and change that on the Polaris? Are we going to go back and make changes? We will make changes. When? It's not coming tomorrow. We need a little bit of time to kind of go back and focus it. We are making some quality of life changes sooner rather than later.
Dude, this feels good, dude. I mean, I know maybe I've possibly complained a bit during this, and like for anybody who's watching, it's dude, I'm gonna have to make this 2 parts. This is so long. I have taken forever to get through this. Maybe I came off as negative during parts of this, but all of my reactions are grateful that we even get an episode like this. I miss this stuff, dude. It's really nice to hear the devs be like, hey, this is what I did. This is how it was received. We get that, and we'll update it. I am as frustrated as anyone in the amount of time that this has taken and the amount of money that has gone into it for seemingly not as much landing in our hands. Now, that could all be different in a year if Squadron 42 is out and like that's a big product and yada, 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 all that stuff. But like this is such quality Star Citizen content. And I wish we got to get this more with other games. Like imagine if the GTA devs were sitting around and talking like this about the things they were working on, or imagine if there was whatever the next Elden Ring is, those people were just like chilling. Hideo Kojima was getting together with his folks and talking about like what the way they're concepting the next Death Stranding stuff. This stuff is so cool. I wish more companies did this, and I do hope that Star Citizen gets more back to doing this again. This is really nice stuff, but I understand it takes a lot of their time away.
But what I don't want to do is I don't want to kind of like knee-jerk react, make loads of changes to it, put it all in, and then them not be, just kind of rush it. I'd rather kind of do it right and have a little bit of time just to kind of let the dust settle, look at what was really successful, learn from it, and go in and make those changes to it. So I was trying to do one thing that turned out people didn't like it, and that's fine. Like that's absolutely fine. And I'd rather have the opportunity to go in and fix it than actually, no, screw you guys, you're kind of done. We will go back, we will kind of make updates to it. Will it be as colourful and bright as what the Perseus is? Maybe, maybe not. But I want to experiment with it and try it first before I kind of hard commit to, this is what we're doing.
I hope it does stick to a more serious, like, having even the military ships have some differences in the way they treat their lighting and stuff is interesting. It's cool. That's something that we've all known from different sci-fi stuff even then. When you're watching Battlestar Galactica, they were on different ships and it looked different. So I do like that they have a different style. I hope they keep that.
I appreciate your candor on that. Chad's made that comment a couple of times in the show today. It's one of the things I like about getting to do these shows is that we get to just be real candid about that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's some things happen because of it takes a village, and there's 30 people involved in that, and a thing is like that because it has to be the synthesized decisions of 30 people, and that's why it ended up that way. And some things are, I wanted it that way, and I take credit and also responsibility.
Yeah, responsibility. That's
exactly. And I really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
And whatnot. And again, just to read between the lines there. Eventually, he said he'd go back and look at some quality of life stuff in the short term. But this, like the folks who have been waiting for the 600i, rework. This isn't a rework, but it's just when we talk about these things, we're giving our best intentions and knowledge that we have at the time. But that's not a schedule.
And there's some things that we can do relatively quickly. And there's other things that take a little bit more time and just a little bit more thought process into it. And I just want to make sure that we kind of like. We do it right.
Yeah. But I will say the RSI.
The ship just came out.
Like in the last, starting with the Polaris.
And it works.
I know we just had some words about the Polaris interior, but there is so much of the Polaris that just pushed that RSI brand beyond.
Yeah, and then we also have the Zeus.
The Polaris and the Zeus.
Yep.
And stuff like this, it's
there was this whole thing with the Polaris and the Zeus where, for me, the Polaris was what originally I'd wanted RSI military ships to feel like, and the Zeus was this commercial, something like a little bit more inviting, a little bit more welcoming. And I think with the Perseus, we've kind of found that really nice balance between the two. So we just need to go around and sort it.
I'm excited about the future of RSI.
And then they need to do the same thing with Origin. They really do. All you want is one window looking out. Yeah, dude, the windows are really nice touch. I think everything should have a window. Every single thing. All of them. There's a building in New York that doesn't have windows. I mean, there are plenty of buildings that don't have windows, but there's a big one in New York, and I don't like it. Don't do that. Give us windows. We want plates and windows.
I've always been, I've always been an admitted
new GI as a game changer
because I like the usable future and everything. But the last year, I've really come around on RSI. It's what I saw with the Zeus, what I saw with the Polaris was just like, oh, maybe I have a new favorite. And it's nice when your favorite also shares the boss's name, just as a political commentary.
Seriously, they made all this tech to allow us to have seamless
simply
changes.
Shark mouth Perseus skin. Please.
Maybe.
Shark mouth.
Not sure yet.
Like the Idris.
I'm going to be non-committal. I don't know. I'll be honest. When Chris asked for the shark mouth Idris, I was just like, nah.
Well, you know what I thought? We got all these like monthly holiday promotions, Stella Fortuna and I could go back there. We could invent Shark Week.
Shark Week, okay.
Shark Week 30th century.
I bet you Shark Week
and just force you to make shark paints for.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to see if someone in chat says that Shark Week's already a thing.
It is a thing. It is a thing in real life, but this is the 30th century.
Yeah. We just continued it.
Do sharks still exist in the 30s?
Space Shark Week.
Manny, let's talk.
Where are the freaking space whales, dude?
About a Shark Week. Manny doesn't watch the show. The next question: Star Kitten Perseus paint, please, by two different people.
One of them wasn't me, I promise.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this Mark? So it's always Starkitten, isn't it? Yep. Bloody Starkitten.
Just give us.
Ben hates Starkitten.
No.
Everyone's like, give us Starkitten. Ben's just like, nah, can't. I refuse.
Everyone thinks I hate Starkitten. I don't hate Starkitten.
It's like me and Drake.
I just want it to be used and released for a reason.
Deliberately.
Yeah, like if we have a Starkitten celebration month, then yeah, of course we do Starkitten paints, absolutely. But I don't want to just slap Starkitten on it.
Are you challenging me?
No, just because everyone likes I think
somebody's going to make their entire ship library just Starkitten skins.
It's got to feel right, and just slapping it on the side of a ship for no reason doesn't feel right to me. I'd love to build out that whole family, whole brand a little bit further, so it's not just Starkitten. There's a whole host of characters.
Star Shark.
Star Shark, yeah, that's fine. But yeah,
Star Shark.
Not right now.
Shark.
Yeah, unless Chris asks me to, and then I'll.
I doubt that request will come from.
Oh, don't know.
He does have a whimsical streak.
He is on board with doing more
people don't give
family,
him credit for.
Yeah.
The fact that I've survived for 11 years proves he's got a whimsical streak. But last Perseus question: how will ammunition be replaced on the Perseus during combat? Will there be some kind of ammunition containers in the cargo hold?
Yes, so I think we've talked about this before, but I'll go over it again. We have plans short term that you'll be able to sort of restock, rearm, refuel from select ships from the stores that you have loaded onto their cargo grids, and if there's another ship in the hangar bay, whatever.
Talked about that at Citizen-Con Direct. So
that's a pretty significant departure from the original vision of like needing to physically load and unload ammo, and I'm not really mad at it. Like I don't mind not having to put the ammo physically into a loading mechanism, but I think I would like them to at least have like a central loading mechanism, maybe right off the cargo grid. I don't know about pulling straight from the cargo grid, but it does seem like that's what they're doing for the crafting too. And I'm not sure if that's, I guess there's a choice to load directly into the fabricator or not, or pull from the cargo grid. But I do wonder if they're going to keep this method. Yeah, it could be, temporary, obviously, and allow for physical loading. I don't know.
Right, so much I'm starting to forget when and where we said stuff. So that's more for like rearming and refueling ships that are docked aboard your ship, landed on your ship. But the same will apply to ammo as well. So if you've got ballistic ammo on your ship, ballistic weapons, short term, it will essentially hoover it out the cargo grid. Mid, long term, we'll have like dedicated space next to those turrets. We sort of left space for this in the Perseus 2 turret rooms. They're just arted up with like fluff. You see it in the stance attack. There's all this cool
Okay, that's
artwork
cool. So they are still going to do the physical loading.
that implies loading of stuff. That you'll be then manually loading the specific ammo type into that area, and that will go to that weapon.
Salvation questions.
Makes me wonder, are they going to have different ammo types for every gun as well? Because we already have different ammo types for every FPS weapon. Is there going to be different ammo types for every ship weapon? This is going to be so many different types of ammo in this game.
Can you add a button on the back of the Salvation to keep expelling the boxes in the buffer? Having to keep going into the cockpit to press the button should not be necessary. Thank you. That sounds like a bug.
Yeah, if you've pressed the button in the cockpit to keep auto-ejecting, it should just keep auto-ejecting, and if not, it's a bug.
Getting removed.
Didn't get it working. It is a bug though, so if we get it to issue cancel, we can get that looked into.
Okay. Will the Salvation fit in and work with the Galaxy's refinery module? Look, I mentioned the Galaxy.
Galaxy question, the only one.
Yay!
It will fit inside the rear hangar, and then you can unload the cargo and refine it.
Yeah. There's like a big double door from the rear hangar to the modular section, so
it'll be relatively easy to fit inside there, to be honest.
I was going to say,
we might have to stop
get a couple in there, not a bother.
I have to stop the Salvation flying through that double door into the refinery module.
I hadn't thought of that.
Good challenge.
No, I don't want people doing that.
Brother, I'm so excited to use ships and other ships in this game. Oh man, things are getting exciting with Star Citizen. Things are really getting exciting here. It's good.
Chat's
it's good
like
time.
Galaxy 2026 confirmed.
Yes.
What made you decide to lock the Salvation salvage beams to modified cinches instead of allowing them to be upgradable, swappable?
So the main role and purpose of the Salvation is to be a introduction into the actual the entire world of salvage. It's a good entry ship just to get started, and we wanted the heads that came with it to specifically try and be a easy experience. So it's very forgiving, but obviously the result is the yield isn't very good. It's just supposed to be, hey, listen, you know you don't really know what you're doing very well with it. Let's make it nice and easy for you. And then if you end up really liking the crew and wanting to progress, you move out of the Salvation. Yeah. So we wanted to be able to very strictly control that experience and not have that head used on other ships, because it's not meant to be a good optimal head. It's just supposed to be
it's literally a starter.
Easy. Yeah. That's exactly
get something
in a
done.
nutshell. We don't want to add complexity to a starter.
Yeah, it's the same thing we did with the Golem.
Yeah,
earlier
exactly
this year.
That it's when we originally talked about them, we talked about them being the opposite sides. One Salvation.
Yeah. Torsten's not here. I don't know if cinches are the best option for hull scraping. It's supposed to focus on hull scraping, but that might just be me being a little bitch.
The beauty of them being locked and bespoke versions is we can tune them. Like if they're not performing how we want, then we can change them.
All right. Let's move on to Clipper. That was a. You ever see it? You know, there are things you see in this game. You know, in this project, you work here long enough, you see a lot of things. The Intrepid showing up early and everybody absolutely hating it, and then it going live, and then it moving like hotcakes as far as volume. The Clipper. You know,
that's good to hear. I have not heard any sign that the Intrepid became a popular ship, but I'm glad to hear that because I do like it, and I think that it was kind of the precursor, really, to the Clipper, and how I have this whole theory about the Clipper that I'm not going to get into. It's probably not very interesting, but it feels like they've built the Clipper and the Intrepid both kind of as ships to represent everything that was going on in the game at the time. I think the Intrepid feels like a generalist ship, maybe with just a little bit more cargo to make it feel like a hauler, like they like to call it. But the Intrepid, if it had a fabrication suite in there, it would basically be a small Clipper, and I guess without the medical stuff. But these two ships feel like they're very closely kind of related in the way that they represent the game.
Oh, when we put it in, that's everyone's like, you put it into build, and those folks who data mine and stuff like that, putting out YouTube videos and whatever, and be like, oh, this thing's so ugly and whatnot, and then it goes live, and I mean, it's now the most successful introduction ship that we've ever done.
Yeah. Wait, what? What was the cutter?
Moving like hotcakes as far as volume. The Clipper. You know, when we put it in, that's everyone's like, you put it into build, and those folks who data mine and stuff like that, putting out YouTube videos and whatever, and be like, oh, this thing's so ugly and whatnot. And then it goes live.
It is, though.
I mean,
it is ugly.
It's now the most successful Drake introduction ship that we've ever done.
I see.
So where was I going with it? Where was I going with this? I got lost. Oh, there's a question here. They already wrote it. The Clipper. What will it be able to craft?
Obviously, we're not the people doing crafting, so I can't give you exacts, but it's designed to be FPS items and small ship items, sort of within that world. It's not designed to be like, I want to make another vehicle. It's clearly not going to fit. And it's sort of part of the balance of that ship. Everyone's like, why does it not have a bigger cargo bay? Why doesn't it have a bigger this? It's the jack of all trades, master of none. It has a relatively small cargo grid, relatively small crafting machine to sort of constrain that.
I feel like there was a pretty good answer to this question in the Q&A. In the Q&A that got published alongside, and that's that, basically, crafting is still being worked on. We did a segment on it at CISCON Direct, what the very first version of crafting is currently scheduled to look like. It should avail itself of everything in that first version, but then as crafting continues to develop and it continues to diversify, the nature of what it can craft will probably change as the nature of what can be crafted in the game can change. So it's not really a answer that we can give, right?
I would imagine it's just things that can fit in that space. At least that can take a certain amount of cargo that can fit in that space.
Trispone says, Jared, it's still ugly though. Your mom.
It's a complete coincidence that Trispone was on the podcast yesterday, but he brought that up, that he had made this comment, and he was like, I felt bad because I didn't think that he would actually read my comment. He was just trolling a little bit. And Jared just clapped back at him. Oh, that's funny.
Says Jared, it's still ugly though. Your mom. I love the Clipper. Why has the Clipper, despite its massive physical size, only 2 size 1 shields?
Again, it's the jack of all trades, master of none. If we gave it really big shields, like when we were doing this ship, it had quite a few internal nicknames for its roles and capabilities, and we were pretty concerned it was just going to be like, when people first heard about it, they're like, this is going to break the game. Like, we need to have some form of like balance and control on it. And that's sort of why it doesn't have a huge amount of shields.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to start this question over, but I'm going to cut this into 2 parts because this is getting really big. So we will continue this in the next video.